The lone rancher found an unconscious woman. She only remembered a name. Ethan Calloway had lived alone on his ranch for as long as anyone in the nearby town could remember. The wide, open fields stretched as far as the eye could see, dotted with patches of dry grass and clusters of hardy shrubs. His ranch was quiet, too quiet sometimes, with only the soft rustle of wind and the distant calls of birds breaking the silence. Ethan liked it that way. He preferred the company of his horses, his cattle, and the gentle creak of the old wooden fences to the noise and rush of townspeople. Life on the ranch was simple, and he liked it simple. That morning, the sun had just begun to rise, painting the sky with shades of pink and gold. Ethan swung open the door of his modest farmhouse, took a deep breath of the cool morning air, and felt the familiar calm settle over him. He grabbed his hat and walked out toward the stables, ready to start his daily rounds. The horses needed feeding, the cattle needed checking, and the fences needed inspecting. It was routine, predictable, and safe, exactly the kind of life Ethan had built for himself. As he moved through the dusty path leading toward the northern fields, he noticed something unusual near the edge of a dry creek bed. At first, it looked like a pile of clothes or maybe an abandoned blanket. But as he drew closer, his heart skipped a beat. There, half hidden under a bush, was a young woman. She lay on her side, motionless, with dirt smudged across her face and her clothes torn in places. Her chest rose and fell slowly, indicating she was alive, but she looked fragile, almost like she had been through something terrible. Without hesitation, Ethan ran to her side. "Hey, can you hear me?" he called softly, brushing some dirt from her cheek. Her eyes fluttered open, but her gaze was unfocused, and she made no sound. Ethan noticed a small cut above her eyebrow and a bruise forming on her arm. He quickly realized she might have been injured for a while, left alone in the heat and dust. Carefully, he lifted her into his arms. She was lighter than he expected, almost as if her body had given up under the weight of exhaustion. Ethan carried her across the dry creek bed, keeping her steady as he made his way back to his farmhouse. The walk seemed longer than it was, but he didn't mind. All that mattered was getting her somewhere safe. Once inside, he laid her gently on the sofa and went to fetch a clean towel and some water. He dabbed the towel lightly across her face, trying to remove the layer of grime and sweat. The young woman stirred again, letting out a faint groan, but no words came. "You're safe here," Ethan said quietly, more to reassure himself than her. He could see the fear lingering in her eyes, the confusion, and the uncertainty. Whoever had left her there had done something cruel. She looked around the small living room, taking in the modest furniture, the wooden floors, and the few photographs Ethan kept on the mantel, pictures of the ranch, of horses he had raised, and of landscapes he loved. It was a simple life, yes, but a safe one. At least he hoped it would feel safe to her. He set a glass of water on the small table next to her and watched as she reached for it, though her movements were slow and uncertain. Her hands shook slightly, and Ethan could see the faint traces of dirt under her fingernails. "You need to drink something," he encouraged gently. She took the glass, tipped it carefully, and sipped. Then she put it down and looked at him with eyes that seemed full of questions she couldn't ask. "What's your name?" Ethan asked, sitting down on the edge of the sofa. The woman hesitated. Her lips moved, but only one word came out, a whisper barely audible. "Leela." Ethan nodded slowly. "All right, Leela," he said. "We'll start with that. You're safe here. I'll help you get better." She closed her eyes again, leaning back against the sofa, and Ethan left her for a moment to prepare a small meal. He brought over some bread, cheese, and a little water, setting it beside her. She ate slowly, cautiously, as if unsure whether it was safe to trust the world around her. Ethan watched her, a quiet determination settling in his chest. This young woman had clearly been through something difficult. He didn't know who she was or how she ended up here, but he knew one thing: he would protect her. Over the next hour, Ethan cleaned her small wounds. He wrapped the cut above her eyebrow with a fresh bandage and applied a gentle ointment to the bruised spots. Leela flinched at the touch at first, but she didn't pull away. Her body was tense, but it seemed she trusted him enough not to resist. Ethan could feel her trembling slightly, not from cold, but from fear and exhaustion. By mid-morning, she was resting quietly on the sofa, the faint sound of her breathing filling the small room. Ethan sat in his chair nearby, watching her and thinking about the mysterious circumstances that had brought her here. There were no tracks leading to this place, no signs of a struggle in the immediate area. Whoever had left her had gone, but why? And why could she only remember a single name? He tried to keep his thoughts from wandering too far into speculation. In his experience, the mind could play tricks on you, especially when someone was under extreme stress. Leela might gradually remember more, or she might not. All he could do was give her a safe place to recover and hope that, eventually, the pieces of her story would come back to her. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, Ethan went about his daily chores, glancing frequently back at the living room window. He fed the horses, checked the cattle, and repaired a section of fence that had been damaged during a recent storm. But even in these routine tasks, his mind kept returning to the young woman on the sofa. He wondered what her life had been like before this, whether she had family, friends, or someone who cared about her. And most of all, he wondered who Leela really was. By late afternoon, she stirred again, sitting up slowly and blinking against the warm sunlight streaming through the window. Ethan handed her a cup of tea, letting her sip as she collected her thoughts. She seemed more alert now, though her memories were still a blur. I remember a name, she said finally, her voice trembling slightly. But that's all. Ethan nodded. That's fine. Names are a good start. We'll figure the rest out together. For a moment, the room was silent except for the ticking of the old clock on the wall. Outside, the ranch stretched endlessly, quiet and vast, offering safety and peace. Inside, a fragile trust was forming between the lone rancher and the mysterious young woman who had appeared out of nowhere. It was a beginning. As night fell, Ethan lit the small fireplace in the living room, the flickering flames casting a warm glow over the room. Leela sat wrapped in a blanket, staring into the fire with a faraway look in her eyes. Ethan poured himself a cup of coffee and settled into his chair, keeping a watchful eye on her. He didn't know what the future held or how complicated this situation might become, but he knew one thing: he would not let her face the world alone. The stars appeared one by one in the clear night sky, and the ranch was silent once more. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote howled, but it did not disturb the calm that had settled over the farmhouse. Ethan knew the world could be dangerous, and he knew Leela had been hurt by it already. But for now, in this quiet house on a lonely ranch, they were safe. And for a man who had always lived alone, and a woman who had lost almost everything, that safety was everything. As he finally rose to close the windows for the night, Ethan glanced at her one last time. Leela had drifted into a deep sleep, her breathing even and calm. Tomorrow would bring new questions, new discoveries, and perhaps a few answers. But tonight there was only the quiet, the warmth, and the promise of protection. And for now, that was enough. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over Ethan Calloway's ranch, casting golden light across the fields and the distant hills. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of dry grass and earth. Ethan had already been awake for some time, checking on the cattle and feeding the horses, but his thoughts kept returning to the young woman he had found the day before. Leela, as she had introduced herself, was still asleep, and he quietly hoped she would wake with a bit more clarity today. By the time he finished his chores, she had stirred. Her eyes opened slowly, blinking against the sunlight that streamed through the window. She looked at Ethan and offered a small, uncertain smile. "Good morning," she whispered, her voice still fragile. "Morning," Ethan replied softly. "How are you feeling?" "Better, I think," Leela said. "But I still don't remember much. Just the name and that feeling that I've lost something important." Ethan nodded, understanding more than she knew. Trauma could cloud memory in strange ways. Some things came back slowly, like drops of water falling into a dry cup. He decided not to press her too hard. "That's okay," he said. "We'll take it one step at a time. Right now you just need to rest and eat." He brought her breakfast, eggs, bread, and fresh milk from the ranch cows. She ate slowly, occasionally glancing around as if seeing the ranch for the first time. Her eyes lingered on the horses in the corral outside and the wide open fields that seemed to stretch forever. Ethan watched her closely, noticing the small ways she flinched at certain noises or movements. Clearly, she had been through something frightening. After breakfast, Ethan suggested a walk outside. "Some fresh air will help you feel stronger," he said gently. Leela agreed, and Ethan helped her step out into the bright morning sunlight. The warmth and the sounds of the ranch seemed to soothe her. Birds chirped from the trees, and a gentle breeze stirred the tall grasses. She took a few cautious steps, her eyes scanning the fields as if trying to place herself in the world. As they walked, Ethan asked lightly, "Do you remember anything else? Anything at all?" Leela shook her head. No, just flashes like fragments. A man shouting a car, and I remember a small silver pendant. That's it. Ethan's curiosity grew. A pendant might be an important clue. He decided to help her search for anything that could trigger her memory. We'll find out more one piece at a time, he said. Maybe we can figure out who you are and where you came from. Together, they went to the small shed near the back of the ranch where Ethan kept tools and old supplies. While Ethan repaired a broken fence, Leela wandered among the stacks of wood and boxes, gently touching old objects. Her fingers trembled as she held a rusted horseshoe, then let it go. She tried to focus, but the memories refused to come. By afternoon, they returned to the farmhouse, and Ethan noticed something half buried in the dirt near the back porch. He picked it up, a torn piece of paper, faded and weathered. Carefully, he handed it to Leela. She looked at it, her brow furrowed. The paper had a few words written in a hurried hand, but they made little sense to her. Still, when she held it, a flicker of recognition passed through her eyes. "There's something familiar," she whispered. I can't remember exactly." Ethan nodded. "That's fine." Recognition is a start. They spent the afternoon going through her few belongings, hoping something might spark a memory. Then, while Ethan was fixing a small gate, he noticed the pendant Leela had described. It was hanging from a branch nearby, probably lost when she had been wandering before she collapsed. He picked it up carefully and handed it to her. Leela gasped softly, tracing her fingers over the delicate silver. "Yes, this is mine," she said, her voice stronger now. I remember holding it, but I don't know who gave it to me or why it's so important." Ethan studied the pendant. It had initials engraved on it. "MK, these letters, do they mean anything?" he asked. Leela shook her head slowly. I don't know. But I feel like I should remember." Ethan didn't press further. He understood that pushing too hard could frighten her. Instead, he guided her to a chair by the window. The light fell softly across the pendant as she held it close. Outside, the horses grazed quietly, and the breeze moved the tall grass like waves on a golden sea. In that peaceful setting, Leela seemed to relax, if only a little. As evening approached, Ethan cooked a simple meal. The smell of grilled chicken and vegetables filled the small farmhouse, and for the first time since her arrival, Leela ate heartily. She even asked a few questions about the ranch, the horses, and the wide fields that stretched beyond the farmhouse. Ethan answered patiently, enjoying the sound of her voice, which seemed stronger with each passing hour. After dinner, they sat on the porch, looking out over the fields as the sky turned shades of orange and purple. Silence settled comfortably between them. Ethan had never been good with small talk, but tonight it didn't matter. Leela seemed content just to sit and watch the sun dip below the horizon. Then she spoke softly, almost to herself. "I feel like I've been somewhere before, but it's all blurry. Like a dream that slips away when you try to hold it." Ethan nodded, understanding more than he said. "Dreams have a way of coming back in their own time. Sometimes you have to be patient." The night grew darker, and stars began to twinkle in the clear sky. Ethan lit the fireplace inside, and the warm glow made the small living room feel safe and welcoming. Leela curled up on the sofa with a blanket, her pendant resting on her chest. Ethan sat nearby, keeping a watchful eye. As the fire crackled softly, Leela's breathing slowed and she drifted into a peaceful sleep. Ethan thought about the day and the small progress she had made. She had recognized the pendant. She had started to speak more confidently, and she had begun to trust him. These were important steps, even if they were small. Ethan knew the road ahead would not be easy. Leela's memories would not return all at once, and the reasons she had ended up unconscious on his ranch were still a mystery. But he felt a quiet determination. He would help her no matter what it took. He would keep her safe, and he would give her the time and space she needed to remember who she was. Sleep eventually claimed him as well, and the ranch was quiet, bathed in the silver glow of the moon. The night was calm, but the promise of a new day brought hope. Tomorrow would bring new discoveries, new questions, and perhaps even answers. For now, Ethan and Leela rested, two lives brought together by chance, united by the need for safety and bound by the beginnings of trust. In the quiet of the ranch, under the vast sky, a journey had begun, a journey to uncover the past, find the truth, and face whatever challenges lay ahead. Outside, the wind whispered through the tall grasses. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote howled, but it did not disturb the peace of the night. Inside the farmhouse, Leela slept safely, and Ethan kept watch, ready for whatever the morning might bring. The next day would be different. There would be more questions and maybe more answers. But tonight, there was only the quiet, the warmth of the fire, and the knowledge that for the first time in a long while, someone was safe. And for Ethan, that was enough. The morning sun rose slowly over the ranch, filling the sky with soft shades of gold and pink. Ethan Calloway was already outside, checking the fences and making sure the cattle were safe. Life on the ranch was usually calm and predictable, but lately his days had changed in ways he could never have imagined. Leela was awake now, sitting quietly on the porch steps, wrapped in a blanket, holding the silver pendant close to her chest. Ethan approached her carefully, not wanting to startle her. "Good morning," he said. "Sleep well?" Leela nodded, though her eyes held a distant look, as if she were trying to see something far away that no one else could. I had dreams," she admitted quietly. "Fragments like pieces of a puzzle, but I can't put them together. I see a man, a car, and I feel afraid. I feel like I was in danger." Ethan nodded slowly. "Dreams can be tricky," he said. "Sometimes they are just memories trying to find their way back. Don't worry. We'll figure this out together." They ate breakfast in silence, the sound of coffee brewing and the soft clink of dishes the only noises in the small kitchen. Leela's hands trembled slightly as she held her mug, but she seemed calmer than the day before. Ethan could see that she was trying to gather strength, both physically and mentally. After breakfast, Ethan suggested they take a walk around the ranch. "Fresh air might help you think," he said gently. "And it's good to move your body after being hurt." Leela agreed, and they walked slowly along the dirt paths, past the grazing cattle and the corrals where the horses played. As they walked, Leela paused and stared at a distant hill. I think I've been somewhere like this," she said softly. "Not here exactly, but a place that felt open, free. I don't know why I remember it." Ethan nodded. "Sometimes your mind remembers things even when you don't. Maybe it's connected to your past." They continued walking in silence for a while until Ethan noticed something unusual near the edge of the field, a small patch of disturbed dirt like someone had recently moved through. He frowned and called Leela over. "Look at this," he said. "See these marks?" Leela leaned closer, her eyes narrowing. "Yes, I think I've seen something like this before. It feels wrong, scary." Ethan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Don't worry, you're safe here. I'll make sure no one can hurt you." Despite the reassurance, Leela shivered slightly. The fragment of memory that had surfaced was enough to remind her that danger had touched her life. She clenched the silver pendant, as if it could protect her. The rest of the morning was spent checking the fences and tending to the animals. Ethan taught Leela how to feed the chickens and collect eggs, tasks that were simple but grounding. Leela seemed to find comfort in the routine, even if her mind kept wandering back to the mysterious fragments of her memory. By afternoon, they returned to the farmhouse. Ethan suggested Leela try to rest, but she shook her head. I want to try to remember," she said. "Maybe if I look at things or try to think, something will come back." Ethan understood. They sat together at the kitchen table, going through the few belongings Leela had brought with her. There were clothes, a small bag, and the silver pendant. Leela picked up each item slowly, studying it carefully. She paused at the pendant, staring at the initials MK engraved on the surface. "I feel something," she whispered. "I don't know what, but it matters." Ethan nodded. "It does matter. Maybe it's connected to your past or to the person who gave it to you. Either way, it's important." As the sun began to lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the ranch, Leela sat quietly in the living room. She closed her eyes, trying to focus on the fragments of memory that had been appearing in her dreams. She saw a small town, people rushing past her, and a man shouting. She felt the fear again, the same fear that had overwhelmed her when she was found by Ethan. Ethan watched her carefully. "Don't push too hard," he said softly. "Your memories will come back when they're ready. You don't have to force them." Leela opened her eyes and nodded. "I know, but I want to remember. I need to know why I was left out there. Who did this?" Ethan's jaw tightened. "We'll find out," he said firmly. "No one will hurt you while I'm here, I promise." That evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sun dip behind the hills, Ethan noticed a figure in the distance, moving near the edge of the property. He squinted, but it was too far to see clearly. Leela noticed it too and froze. "Do you see that?" she whispered. Ethan nodded. "It's probably nothing," he said, though his instincts told him otherwise. "But we'll be careful, stay close." The figure disappeared into the trees, leaving only the whisper of the wind behind. Leela's hands shook slightly, and she held the pendant tightly. I feel like someone is watching me, she admitted. Ethan placed a hand on hers. Maybe they are, he said quietly. But you're not alone. I'm here and I'll protect you. No one will take you without me knowing. That night after dinner, Ethan prepared the fireplace and made tea for both of them. Leela sat curled on the sofa, the pendant resting against her chest. I can't shake the feeling, she said softly. Someone wants me to be afraid. I don't know why, but I feel it. Ethan nodded. We'll figure it out, he said. We'll find out who wants to hurt you and why, but for now you need to rest. Your body and mind need strength. Leela closed her eyes, but sleep did not come easily. The fragments of memory floated in her mind like shadows, snatches of voices, a car speeding, someone shouting. She tried to hold on to them, but they slipped away, leaving only a sense of fear. Ethan stayed nearby, watching the fireplace, ready to protect her if needed. The next morning, Leela awoke feeling both anxious and determined. She wanted to uncover the truth, to understand who she was and why she had been left alone and hurt. Ethan noticed the change in her demeanor. She seemed stronger, more focused, though still fragile. Are you ready to try today? Ethan asked as they walked outside. Leela nodded. Yes, I need to know. I can't keep hiding in fear. They spent the day exploring the edges of the ranch and nearby fields, looking for anything that might spark her memory. Every unusual mark on the ground, every discarded object, seemed to pull at a thread in Leela's mind. She remembered bits of conversations, the sound of a car engine, the feel of rough hands, and the silver pendant. Each memory was incomplete, but together they began to form a larger picture, one of danger, mystery, and a past that had been taken from her. By late afternoon, they returned to the farmhouse exhausted but determined. Leela sat on the porch, staring at the hills in the distance, thinking. I feel closer, she said softly, closer to remembering everything, but I also feel scared. Like someone is still out there waiting for me. Ethan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. We'll face it together, he said firmly. No one will hurt you while I'm here. You're not alone. That night, as the stars appeared one by one in the clear sky, Leela drifted into a restless sleep, her mind alive with fragments of the past. Ethan stayed awake, keeping watch, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. He knew the danger was real, but so was the bond forming between him and Leela. He would protect her at any cost. Outside, the wind rustled the tall grasses, and somewhere in the distance, a coyote howled. The sound was eerie, but Ethan felt calm. He had survived harsh winters, storms, and loneliness on this ranch, but protecting Leela would be his greatest challenge yet. Tomorrow would bring new discoveries, new pieces of memory, and perhaps a closer step to understanding the truth. For now, though, they rested. Two lives brought together by chance were slowly forming trust and strength. And though the road ahead was uncertain, they were no longer alone in facing it. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over Ethan Calloway's ranch, casting long shadows across the wide, open fields. Leela was already awake, sitting on the porch with the silver pendant in her hands. Her fingers traced the engraved initials, MK, over and over, as if the touch might unlock something hidden in her memory. Ethan watched her quietly from the doorway, sensing a shift in her demeanor. There was determination now, not just fear. She wanted answers. I think I'm ready, Leela said finally, her voice steady but filled with emotion. I want to remember everything. I want to know who I am and why all this happened. Ethan nodded. We'll take it step by step. You don't have to do it alone. They spent the morning going through the farmhouse again, carefully examining each item she had brought with her. There was her small bag, the clothes she had been wearing, and a few personal effects that seemed ordinary but could hold hidden clues. Leela picked up the pendant again and held it tightly. I think this belongs to someone I know, someone I trusted, she said quietly. Ethan studied her face. Do you think it can help you remember? I hope so, Leela said. I feel like it's connected to everything that happened. If I can figure out who gave it to me, maybe I can understand the rest. As they spoke, Leela's mind began to stir, and fragments of memory appeared more clearly than before. She remembered a small town, narrow streets, and a bustling market. She saw herself speaking with a man, handing him a notebook, and then feeling a sudden sense of danger. Her heart raced as the images flashed across her mind, each fragment incomplete but powerful. I remember now, she whispered. I was working on something important. I think I was trying to uncover something someone didn't want me to see. Ethan frowned, sensing the seriousness in her words. Do you know who tried to hurt you? Leela shook her head. Not yet, but I remember the car, the man, and the fear. They wanted me to stop. They wanted me to disappear. The realization made Ethan's jaw tighten. Whoever had harmed Leela had planned it carefully, and now that she was recovering, they might still be looking for her. He knew he had to keep her safe, not just on the ranch, but everywhere she went. After breakfast, Ethan suggested they take a walk toward the edge of the property, hoping the fresh air and gentle movement might help Leela remember more. As they walked, she began to speak more freely, describing bits and pieces of her past. She remembered meeting a mentor who had given her advice and encouragement, people she had trusted, and a project she had been working on that involved exposing wrongdoing. "Your memories are coming back," Ethan said softly. "That's a good sign. It means your mind is healing." Leela nodded, but there was a shadow in her eyes. "I feel afraid," she admitted, "like I'm not safe yet, like someone is still out there waiting." Ethan placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You're not alone. We'll face it together. No one will hurt you while I'm here." As the afternoon sun climbed higher, Leela's memories grew stronger. She remembered the man who had given her the pendant, a family friend who had trusted her with important information. The pendant had been a symbol of that trust, and seeing it again brought a sense of clarity. She also remembered the moments leading up to her kidnapping, the sudden fear, the struggle, and the feeling of helplessness. "I remember him," Leela said, her voice trembling. "The person who gave me this, he trusted me. He wanted me to protect something important." And then everything went wrong. Ethan listened carefully. "We'll find out what went wrong, and we'll make sure justice is served." That evening, they returned to the farmhouse. Leela sat on the sofa, holding the pendant while Ethan prepared a simple dinner. The room was quiet, but the tension in the air was palpable. Leela's mind was active, piecing together memories, while Ethan's instincts told him that the danger was not over. Whoever had wanted her harmed before might still be a threat. After dinner, Leela spoke again. "I think I know who they are. I don't know their names, but I remember their faces. I remember the car they drove, and I remember their anger. They wanted to stop me from finding the truth." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Then we'll need a plan." "You can't face this alone, and you don't have to," Leela nodded. "I know. That's why I'm glad I found you. You've kept me safe, and you've helped me start to remember. I don't know what I would have done without you." Ethan felt a warmth in his chest. Protecting Leela had become more than a responsibility. It was a choice he wanted to make every day. "We'll face it together," he said firmly. The following days were spent preparing. Leela wrote down what she remembered, making notes and sketches that could help identify the people who had hurt her. Ethan helped her, offering guidance and keeping watch over the ranch. Together, they reconstructed the fragments of her memory, piecing together the sequence of events that had led to her being found unconscious. One afternoon, while they were going over her notes, Leela's face lit up. "I remember now," she said. "I remember the town where it all started, the people who were involved. The project I was working on, it was a story about corruption and lies. They didn't want me to finish it." Ethan nodded. "Then we know what we need to do. We can be careful, but we can also make sure the truth comes out." Leela felt a surge of determination. The fear that had haunted her was still there, but now it was mixed with courage. She knew she had been through danger and pain, but she also knew that she was not powerless. With Ethan's help, she could face the people who had tried to stop her. That night, as the fire crackled in the fireplace, Leela reflected on everything she had remembered. The pendant, the man who had trusted her, the moments of fear and courage, they all formed a story that was uniquely hers. She realized that she had survived for a reason, and that reason was now clear: to confront the truth and reclaim her life. Ethan watched her quietly, sensing the change in her. Leela was no longer just the frightened young woman he had found on the ranch. She was strong, focused, and ready to face whatever came next, and he would be there beside her, protecting her and offering support. As the stars appeared in the night sky, Leela finally allowed herself to feel hope. She had faced fear, uncertainty, and pain, but she had also discovered trust, safety, and courage. The road ahead would be difficult, but she was ready. With Ethan by her side, she could face the people who had tried to harm her and take back control of her life. Outside, the wind whispered through the tall grasses of the ranch. The quiet night held a sense of promise, a feeling that change was coming. Leela's memories were clearer now, and the truth was within reach. She no longer felt lost or helpless. Tomorrow they would take steps to confront the danger that still lingered, but tonight there was peace. The ranch, with its wide fields and gentle sounds of nature, had become a place of safety and preparation. And in that safety, Leela found the strength to continue her journey, a journey to reclaim her identity, her life, and the truth that had been stolen from her. As Ethan closed the windows for the night, he glanced at Leela one last time. She sat quietly by the fire, her eyes focused and determined. The silver pendant glinted in the warm light, a symbol of trust, courage, and the past she was ready to face. Ethan knew the challenges ahead would not be easy, but he also knew that together they could overcome anything. The night was calm, the stars bright above the ranch, and for the first time in many weeks, both Ethan and Leela felt a sense of readiness. The confrontation was coming, and when it did, they would be prepared. The morning sun rose slowly over the ranch, painting the fields with shades of gold and green. Ethan Calloway had already been awake for hours, tending to the animals and checking the fences, but his mind was on the day ahead. Today was different. Today, Leela would face the people who had tried to harm her, and they would finally be held accountable. Leela was awake, sitting at the kitchen table with her notes spread out in front of her. She held the silver pendant in her hand, feeling the cool metal press against her palm. It was more than a piece of jewelry now. It was a symbol of trust, courage, and the journey she had been through. "I'm ready," she said softly, looking up at Ethan. "I know it won't be easy, but I can't let them continue to hurt people. I need to finish what I started." Ethan nodded. "You won't be alone. We'll face this together, and we'll make sure nothing happens to you." They spent the morning preparing carefully. Ethan checked the truck and packed a small bag with water, food, and essential supplies. Leela reviewed her notes, making sure she had all the details she needed. Together, they went over the plan step by step, considering every possible obstacle and thinking ahead to ensure safety. By mid-morning, they set out toward the nearby town, driving slowly through the winding roads that led away from the quiet ranch. Leela's hands rested on her notes, and Ethan's hand remained close to hers on the seat for reassurance. The journey was silent except for the hum of the truck and the occasional call of a bird in the fields. When they arrived in the town, Leela's heart raced. She recognized familiar streets and buildings, the places where fragments of her memory had come alive in flashes. She saw the market where she had walked, the small cafe where she had once stopped for coffee, and the alleyway where she remembered the car that had threatened her. Ethan parked a block away and looked at Leela. "Remember, we stay calm, we stick to the plan." "Nothing rash," he reminded her. Leela nodded. "I'm ready, I know what I have to do." They walked carefully toward the office building where Leela remembered some of the people who had tried to stop her were located. Each step brought memories closer, and with each memory, Leela felt more focused. She remembered the man who had shouted, the stolen notebook, and the fear that had nearly paralyzed her. But now she had strength. She had Ethan, and she had clarity. As they entered the building, Leela's eyes scanned the room. There were people moving about, but none seemed aware of the storm that was about to arrive. She took a deep breath and approached the receptionist. "I need to see Mr. Keller," she said confidently. The receptionist looked up, surprised. "Do you have an appointment?" I need to speak with him about a serious matter. It's urgent," Leela said firmly. Ethan stayed behind her, quietly surveying the room. He could sense the tension in Leela, but he also sensed her courage. This was the moment she had been preparing for. Mr. Keller appeared from an office at the back, a man in his 50s with a stern face. Leela's stomach tightened as she looked at him. She remembered him from the fragmented memories, the man who had played a part in the danger she had faced. "You wanted to see me?" Mr. Keller asked, his voice calm but with an edge that suggested authority. "Yes," Leela said, her voice steady. "I have information that concerns you, and it concerns the safety of others. You tried to stop me from completing my work, and I will not allow that to happen." Mr. Keller's eyes narrowed. "And who are you?" "My name is Leela Morrison," she said firmly. "And I will finish what I started. I will not be intimidated." Ethan stepped forward. "She's not alone, and we will make sure the truth comes out." The tension in the room was thick, but Leela did not waver. She laid out her notes, her research, and the evidence she had gathered. Each piece of information painted a clear picture of wrongdoing, deception, and threats that had been made against her. Mr. Keller's face turned pale as he listened. The evidence was undeniable. The story Leela had been working on was real, and the attempts to stop her were now exposed. You don't understand," Mr. Keller said, his voice shaking slightly. "It wasn't supposed to go this far. We were only trying to protect ourselves." Leela held her ground. Your actions put people in danger. You tried to silence me. That is not protection, that is harm. And now the truth will come out whether you like it or not. Ethan stayed close, ready to step in if needed, but he could see that the room had shifted. Leela's courage, her preparation, and her determination had given her the upper hand. Mr. Keller had no choice but to face the consequences. By the time they left the building, Leela felt a weight lifted from her shoulders. She had confronted the people who had tried to harm her. She had spoken her truth and ensured that justice would be pursued. For the first time in weeks, she felt a sense of closure, a feeling that her life could move forward. Ethan walked beside her, proud of the strength she had shown. "You did it," he said softly. "You faced them and stood your ground. I'm proud of you." Leela smiled, a real, genuine smile that reached her eyes. "I couldn't have done it without you," she admitted. "You kept me safe, helped me remember, and gave me the courage to face this." They returned to the ranch as the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the fields. The air was warm, and the sky was painted with shades of pink and orange. Leela felt a sense of peace she hadn't felt in a long time. The danger was behind her, the truth was being told, and she had reclaimed control of her life. Over the next few days, life at the ranch settled into a new rhythm. Leela worked alongside Ethan, helping with the animals, tending to the garden, and learning more about the routines of ranch life. The quiet, wide-open spaces that had once been intimidating now felt safe and welcoming. She also spent time organizing her notes and preparing the final pieces of her story. With Ethan's support, she contacted local authorities to ensure the wrongdoing she had uncovered would be addressed properly. The fear that had haunted her for weeks began to fade, replaced by confidence and a renewed sense of purpose. One evening, as the sun dipped below the hills, Leela and Ethan sat on the porch, watching the colors of the sky reflect on the fields. The wind whispered through the tall grasses and the ranch was quiet, peaceful. "I never thought I'd feel this calm again," Leela said softly. "After everything, after the fear, it feels like a new beginning." Ethan nodded. "It is a new beginning. You faced the past and now you can move forward, and I'll be here every step of the way." Leela smiled, feeling a warmth she hadn't felt in months. She looked down at the silver pendant still resting against her chest. It had been her connection to the past, a symbol of the trust and courage that had guided her. Now, it also symbolized the strength she had discovered within herself. As night fell, the stars appeared, twinkling like tiny lanterns above the wide-open fields. The ranch was silent except for the soft sounds of the animals settling in for the night. Leela and Ethan sat together, the sense of safety and calm surrounding them. In the days that followed, life continued on the ranch with a new rhythm. Leela and Ethan shared stories, laughed, and found comfort in each other's company. The past, with its fear and uncertainty, was behind them, and the future stretched out like the endless fields around them, full of possibility, hope, and promise. Though the journey had been difficult and the memories painful, Leela had discovered her courage, reclaimed her identity, and faced the people who had tried to harm her. She had found strength in herself, in Ethan, and in the peaceful sanctuary of the ranch. And for Ethan, the ranch that had once been a quiet refuge for one man had become a place of friendship, trust, and new beginnings. Together, he and Leela had faced danger, uncovered the truth, and created a future full of hope. The wind whispered through the fields, carrying with it the promise of days filled with peace, laughter, and the freedom to live without fear. Leela held the silver pendant one last time before placing it carefully on the mantel, a reminder of the journey she had survived and the strength she had gained. And in the quiet of the ranch, under the endless sky, two lives, once marked by fear and uncertainty, found safety, courage, and a new beginning. The story of the lone rancher and the woman who had appeared on his land had reached its resolution, but the bond they had formed, the trust they had built, and the lessons they had learned would last forever. The ranch was no longer just a place of work and solitude. It had become a place of healing, hope, and the promise of a life rebuilt from courage and resilience. And as the stars shone above the fields, Ethan and Leela knew that whatever came next, they would face it together.